And today we have a very special guest joining us. The last time I met up with Marc Morano was actually in Spain when we were following Greta Thunberg while she was trying to manipulate delegates at the Global Climate Change Conference. Marc Morano joins us here today to talk about what is going on with the United States election, both when it comes to how the votes are being casted, counted, who manipulated them before and after, and specifically as well, what is going on with Joe Biden's plan to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord? Thanks so much for joining us here today, Marc.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. This we are in for. This is a fascinating election. What's happening here right now? Just to talk real quick, Donald Trump actually predicted what's happening now. He said that the 2020 mail-in ballots will be the most rigged election in our nation's history. And he said even during World War I and World War II, we voted in person. There was no reason, and he warned of this. But the bottom line here, Keean, is that unless President Trump needed to win by a bigger margin, or else he's not going to get it, I have a hard time seeing the ways he's going to pull through this. I'm very skeptical, let's put it that way, that Donald Trump is going to be able to have a court challenge, voter fraud, et cetera, and actually reverse what's coming. And it's coming, to make no mistake. Pennsylvania is going to declare Biden the winner here shortly.
Yeah, things are tightening up for him, and his paths to victory are tightening up as well. And I want to know from you, from your perspective, what you think played a role in his defeat. Now, the polls were saying that it was going to be a blowout. It obviously was not. Donald Trump was competitive in more states anyone thought he would be. Democrats were competitive in Georgia too, but when we talk about the Rust Belt and Nevada even, we're wondering why Donald Trump did so much better than the pollsters predicted he would. Do you agree with my thesis that the pollsters knew what they were doing all along, and they're an extension of CNN and Fox News and the Democrat Party proper to suppress Donald Trump's vote and energy?
I think that's absolutely. I mean, they have to know that they were doing was nonsense. It was all, if you look at the Drudge Report, which has now gone to done a complete reversal. It was a great mouthpiece for the progressive left this election cycle. Everything was every battleground state, Trump down, 5, 10 points, Biden. They were going on about, states like Ohio and Texas in play, all the same stuff they did in 2016. But basically, even if pollsters don't have an agenda, which they obviously do, and they're now defending that agenda. But there's also the idea that there is the shy component, if you want to use the word shy, of Trump supporters, of the middle-of-the-road Trump supporters, because Trump is made out to be Hitler. So if a pollster calls you and says, are you going to vote for Adolf Hitler or Joe Biden? Everyone's going to be afraid to say Hitler if that's the bottom line. So that's how they portrayed Trump. So they never accounted for that. Also, the sampling of the polls, they always had more Democrats. But I think the biggest difference in this race, I think Trump, there's two things you need to know. President Trump was coasting to probably an easy, massive reelection pre-COVID. And I mean pre-COVID lockdowns and pre-elevation of Anthony Fauci at CDC. If we go back to February, Donald Trump, there was no way. The lowest black unemployment, lowest Hispanic unemployment, the greatest economic growth in 60 years. The United States was energy dominant, exporter of energy for the first time since Harry Truman was president. I mean, there was, and not only did he use the energy issue in a way, think back, George Bush said, we got to end our addiction to oil and all this other stuff. Donald Trump turned energy into a positive. He turned it into jobs. He turned it into lives in all these states. He got West Virginia. I can't remember the last number I saw, but he won West Virginia this time around. Coal country, about 70% of the, maybe 75% of the vote. I mean, that's how unbelievable he was. He lets COVID come in, and I think ultimately that's what, a simple answer to your question, COVID, lockdowns, and the narrative that Trump allowed killed Donald Trump's reelection. And here's what I mean. He allowed Anthony Fauci and the CDC and the public health unelected bureaucrats to hijack his presidency. Donald Trump featured them at daily hour-long plus press conferences, allowed all these governors to shut down the country, allowed fear to go rampant. It took months for Donald Trump to recover, and that killed it. That was it. It was done. And that allowed the mail-in votes, which is the second reason he died. I mean, his election died. And if you look at Wisconsin, they're claiming 90% turnout. Well, if you mail out enough ballots to people who would never otherwise take an ounce of trouble to go to the polls, aside from fraud, you're going to get a lot more non-Donald Trump votes.
Yeah, I think when people dissect Donald Trump's presidency, they're going to look at two things that kept him out of the second term, assuming Joe Biden wins. And it's one, he let Anthony Fauci hijack his presidency, exactly as you said. He let Fauci run the show. And that's a huge problem for Donald Trump when their messages were so opposed. But he also allowed the social media giants to run his show as well, to control his messaging. Donald Trump right now has a 50% chance of having anything he tweets being censored. That is a massive problem. And that was going on before votes were being cast. That's been going on for a long time. And he just let it happen. That's such a massive problem, and people are going to look at that 10 years from now when academics are trying to understand why Donald Trump lost an election that he should have won, despite what the pollsters were saying. And it's because social media has been able to sort of overshadow him and control the messaging that Americans are allowed to see. Now, I want to dive into what you were saying about about energy and Joe Biden. This is something that you talk a lot about, and I want to know from your perspective, and I want you to be able to tell folks, what is the impact that they're going to feel personally, financially, and socially when Joe Biden rejoins the Paris Climate Accord?
Okay, well, first of all, the good news is that, and by the way, mentally, intellectually, I've accepted Donald Trump's defeat. I just don't, I mean, we could have months of court cases, but I don't see it at this point. I mean, it's a very, very, very long shot. But beyond that, the good news is the Republicans retain the Senate. And that means no Green New Deal passes unless there's enough Republicans to do a Green New Deal light or something. But, but basically it means the stopping of that. It's stopping the court packing. It's stopping a lot of what Joe Biden did. Because of that, Joe Biden's rejoining of the UN Paris Agreement, which he just tweeted what's today? I guess he tweeted 2 days ago or yesterday, maybe that he will rejoin the Paris Agreement almost from day one of his presidency. And of course, Evan, this is huge news to the left. I mean, People Magazine, of all things, has an article out today on this. Joe Biden to rejoin. I mean, this is how global warming and the Paris Pact has permeated our pop culture. But in terms of what it means to the average American, it means the end of U.S. energy dominance, because what Trump championed, we are now going to be demonizing from the bully pulpit of the White House. And this means fracking, means what's left of the coal industry. It means oil drilling. It means mining. I mean, everything we've achieved in 4 years of Donald Trump is literally going to be under assault. And I don't know that it can survive. And here's what really can. Is all President Trump's greatest accomplishments were in reversing President Obama's climate agenda from A to Z. Pretty much Joe Biden can reinstate that in the next few months to a year and a half of his presidency, because all of that was done non-legislator on both sides, because Obama never had the Congress. So we're going to go back to a crazy EPA trying to implement, essentially to go along with the UN Paris Agreement. And Joe Biden's hinted that they're going to be much more ambitious than what President Obama agreed to with the UN Paris Agreement for the U.S. commitment.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.